Hi, I'm Carmen. I'm a psychologist and a mum of 4. Today I want to talk about self-talk, that little voice we have in our head, and how our thoughts can sometimes be very unhelpful, and you have to look out for those thoughts. So most people believe that something happens and then we feel a certain way because of it. We feel happy, or we feel upset, or we feel annoyed because of the situation that happens. However, there is actually a step between that. We feel a certain way about something that happens because of the thought we have about that situation. It's not the situation itself that makes us feel that way. So let's make an example about this. Imagine that you're at a party, you just got there, your host introduces you to a person that you don't know yet, and you're trying to talk to that person, and that person is looking around the room and barely makes eye contact, and there is several different ways you could feel about that. So you probably already had a thought about straight away when you heard this what you would think about the situation, but let's just go through some different options here to illustrate what I'm trying to say. Imagine that your thought about this situation is, oh, this person is so rude, like they don't even want to talk to me, they're looking away, how annoying, how rude. You might be a bit angry and annoyed. But just still imagine this exact same scenario, nothing has changed, but your thought is, this person must be concerned about someone. Maybe they were waiting for a friend and they start to get worried that something happened to that friend on the road to the party. You wouldn't feel annoyed or angry with that person anymore. You would feel compassionate. You would feel worried yourself maybe that something has happened to someone. And maybe you would ask, is everything okay? Now again, this same scenario, you could be thinking, I must be such a boring person, unattractive, no one wants to talk to me. This person doesn't like talking to me, that's why they're like that, I'm boring. You would feel sad and upset and hurt. A completely different feeling again. We're still in this exact same scenario. And now, just to look at it from another angle again, you could be thinking, this person might like me a little bit, and they get all shy and don't know where to look and don't know what to say because they're actually interested in me. And some people get like that when they're like this. So another totally different feeling. You might feel flattered and interested as well, and could be a completely different scenario again. So as you can see, same situation, 4 different thoughts about what the situation means makes you feel 4 completely different feelings, some positive, some negative. And that's why it's pretty important for us to look out for that little thought. This happens so fast, situation happens, we feel a certain way that we very often don't pick up on that. And that's why I'm talking to you about this, so that you can start looking out for, what was I thinking about the situation? Why am I feeling this way about it? Now that you know that there is a thought in between what's happening and how you feel, you can start to look out for that thought. So there's a specific way how our thoughts can be unhelpful, and most of us have 2 or 3 or 4 of those unhelpful thinking styles. We usually don't have all of them, but I go through some of the major ones with you quickly, and you might say straight away, yep, that's me, that's how I'm thinking, that's a bit of my unhelpful thinking style. And you can always go look up a little bit more about this on the internet. So one of the main unhelpful thinking styles, and I had that one when I was a young person, is the all or nothing thinking, black and white thinking. I could not see the grey shades in between of anything at that time when I was young, It was either good or bad. There was nothing in between. It was either amazing or I hated it. Also the same with people, of course, I would judge them into categories. There was nothing, oh, they're all right. It was just hated them or loved them. So a lot of people, especially young people, are like that. They're black and white. They don't want to see the grey in between. Some people can be good people, but maybe they did a stupid thing. Or situations. There's not everything is bad about it, but it might be not a good situation for you right now. Overgeneralization is another big one. That means that we might have had a day that had something bad happen in it, and we only think of that and we just say, I had a shit day. Some people do that, like we come home from work or school and we think we had a bad day. We completely forget about all the little positive things that have also happened on that day, and we just say the whole day was bad because of probably one thing that happened that wasn't so good. So what we can do about that is to try not to forget about the positive things that also happened in that day. Catastrophizing is another really big one. I had once, just to make a very extreme example, I had once a student tell me that she was worried and she came for counselling because she was worried for her very important exams that prepared her, and the grades were important for university entry later. And she was so stressed about it because in her mind, if she wouldn't pass that test or get the grade she needed, she would end up homeless. Like that is a massive jump to catastrophizing from failing an assessment to I will not get into my university degree, I will never have a good job, I'm going to end up in the streets homeless. So that is a very extreme case of catastrophizing, and a lot of us do that. Like one bad thing happens and we jump to conclusion, and that's actually another one, jumping to conclusions that my whole life must be bad. So yeah, jumping to conclusions also includes mind reading a little bit. Like let's say we walk through the cafeteria or in a school ground or anywhere, past people, and they start laughing as soon as we pass them, and we could jump to the conclusion that they were laughing at us. I must be looking funny, I must have done something silly, they hate me, something like that. But you know, they could have also just talked about something funny that has nothing to do with us. But in our mind, we might jump to that conclusion. And it's not helpful, it makes us feel terrible. So it's good to remind ourselves that we don't really know what they were laughing about. They could have just talked about something else that is funny. Personalization is another one that we tend to do. It means that we take the blame and the responsibility for every bad thing that happens. Even things that are completely out of our control, we tend to say it must be my fault, or take the full 100% blame, even so, well, maybe we're only a little bit part of it. Let's say we've done a group work and the project failed or didn't get as good of an outcome as we wished, and we just take that full blame, even so it was a group effort, you know, it's not your fault that it didn't do as well. But very often I see it in young people that they, for example, blame themselves for parents breaking up or something like that. It has nothing to do with you, let me tell you, nothing. Parents are adults, it's never your fault. Sometimes having children can add to the pressures of a relationship, but it's still never your fault. Another one is labeling. Maybe you have noticed that you can think very horrible things about yourself. You might say, I'm stupid, I'm ugly, you look terrible today, things like that. You look in the mirror and you just say something horrible about yourself in your mind. And if you think about it, you would never say that to another person. You would never say that to your friend. And you have to be your best friend. You have to say nice things. You have to keep in mind that the rule, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything, should also apply to yourself. Look for the positive. Point out the positive. Look for it actively. Don't label yourself with anything negative. Labeling is very unhelpful thinking style. Then you also have the emotional reasoning. That means that we may feel something and then assume that this feeling must mean something, like, for example, because I feel lonely, it must mean that no one loves me. Or because I feel embarrassed, it must mean that I'm an idiot. But that's not the case. Our feelings, as we could just see before in the story I started off with, our feelings are not really reliable. Like, our feelings are based on our thoughts. So don't jump to those conclusions again, just through that emotional reasoning. Then we also have mental filters. It also has a little bit to do with what I mentioned earlier, with filtering out those positives, forgetting about them. There's something called a confirmation bias. So if you do think that you're a stupid person or that no one loves you, then you might look for things that confirm that, and you filter all the other stuff out. And you take those things that somehow in your mind prove that this belief about yourself must be true. You just notice those things so much more. And that's, of course, a very, very unhelpful thinking style. I don't want anyone to feel that way about themselves. So please, watch what your little inner voice, what that self-talk is. Don't criticize yourself. Say the positive things. Pretend that you're your own best friend, which I would like you to be to yourself. And notice that little voice and stop it if it's negative. You can tell it to, no way, don't talk to me like that. I don't want to hear this. That's not true. Challenge it. You're in control of your mind. Thank you. Bye.